Apple was dying. In 1997, bankruptcy loomed. Steve Jobs returned, not as a savior, but as an interim CEO. His first act was to kill dozens of projects, focusing on just 4. The iMac launched in 1998. It was colorful, translucent, and unlike any computer before, it became the fastest-selling computer in history. Apple's stock soared 1,000% in 3 years. The company's market cap reached $5 billion by the year 2000. But this success was built on a fragile foundation. The iMac was a hit, but Apple was still a one-trick pony. The iPod and iPhone were still years away. Behind the scenes, Jobs' perfectionism caused internal conflicts and high turnover. The iMac's success masked deeper issues. Apple's reliance on a single product line made it vulnerable to market shifts. Jobs' vision was clear: simplicity and design. But his relentless drive created a culture of fear and secrecy. Apple's comeback seemed miraculous, but was it sustainable? The company was still a niche player in a PC-dominated world. Competitors like Dell and HP dismissed Apple as a fad. They didn't see the revolution brewing in Cupertino. Jobs knew the iMac was just the beginning. He was already planning the next big thing. A digital hub for consumers. The cracks were forming. But the world only saw the shine. Apple's risky comeback was a high-wire act without a net. In 1997, Apple was on life support. The company had lost its way, and bankruptcy seemed inevitable. Steve Jobs returned to a company in chaos. His first act was to cancel dozens of projects, including the Newton. The company was bleeding cash. Morale was at an all-time low. Employees feared layoffs any day. Jobs refocused Apple on simplicity. He believed that great design could save the company from oblivion. The iMac was designed to be user-friendly. Its bright colors and all-in-one shape made it stand out. But the real genius was in the marketing. Jobs positioned Apple as the anti-Microsoft, the rebel choice. The Think Different campaign celebrated iconoclasts. It resonated deeply with creatives and free thinkers. We upload videos like this every day. Subscribe so you don't miss out. Television. Apple's retail stores were a risky bet. Critics said it would fail, but Jobs insisted on controlling the experience. The stores became a huge success. They offered hands-on demos and genius support, building brand loyalty. Secretly, Jobs had another project in development. The iPod was being built alongside the iMac. Hidden from most, Jobs envisioned a digital hub. The Mac would be the center of your music, photos, and videos. This vision would later spawn the iPod and iPhone. But in 1998, it was just a seed of an idea. Jobs' perfectionism caused internal conflicts. He pushed teams to their limits, demanding impossible deadlines. Despite the turmoil, Apple's comeback was real. The iMac saved the company. But the real work was just beginning. In 2001, Apple launched the iPod. It wasn't the first Tiga player, but it was the best. The device held 1,000 songs in your pocket. Steve Jobs negotiated tirelessly with record labels. He convinced them to sell songs individually for 99 cents. The iTunes Store was born. Buying music became legal and easy. No more piracy. Apple's ecosystem locked users into their products. Once you owned an iPod, you stayed. The iPod's success was staggering. By 2005, Apple sold over 40 million units. Revenue soared, and Apple's brand became synonymous with cool. But Jobs wasn't done. In 2007, he unveiled the iPhone. It was a phone, an iPod, and an internet communicator all in one. The iPhone revolutionized the smartphone industry. It had a multi-touch interface and no physical keyboard. Competitors scrambled to catch up. Apple's App Store launched in 2008, created a new economy for developers. Anyone could build and sell software for the iPhone. Each product built on the previous one's success. The iPod paved the way for the iPhone. The iPhone led to the iPad. Apple's ecosystem grew stronger. Behind the scenes, Tim Cook perfected Apple's supply chain. He turned inventory into cash. Apple's operational efficiency maximized profits like never before. Apple's brand became synonymous with innovation. The company's marketing made people line up for days. Owning an Apple product was a status symbol. By 2011, Apple was the most valuable company in the world. Its market cap exceeded $300 billion. The masterstroke had worked, but this success came at a cost. Jobs' perfectionism strained relationships. He drove his teams relentlessly. The pressure to innovate was immense. AI is changing everything fast. Instead of missing trends, you can discover new business ideas on Horizon Radar. Link in description. Apple's supply chain became a competitive advantage. Tim Cook's efficiency meant lower costs and higher margins. The company could invest more in R&D. The masterstroke was not just one product. It was a series of calculated risks. Each move built on the last, creating an unstoppable momentum. October Lima 2011. The world lost Steve Jobs. Apple lost its visionary founder. A leadership void opened, deep and dangerous. Tim Cook took the helm. He was an operational genius, not a product visionary. The pressure to innovate was immense. Apple's product launches became iterative. Each new iPhone looked like the last. The magic of revolution was gone. The iPhone's dominance plateaued. Global smartphone sales slowed. Apple's growth engine began to sputter. Competitors like Samsung caught up in design and features. Apple's once unassailable lead eroded year by year. Apple's reliance on iPhone sales became a vulnerability. Over half of its revenue came from one product. A risky bet. Services like Apple Music and TV Plus launched with mixed success. They couldn't replace the iPhone's profit engine. Antitrust investigations targeted Apple's App Store monopoly. Regulators accused it of stifling competition. Legal battles loomed. In 2022, Apple's valuation dropped by $1 trillion. A staggering loss. The comeback story seemed to be fading. Supply chain issues and global economic slowdowns hurt sales. Even Apple wasn't immune to the world's turmoil. Yet, Apple's resilience and cash reserves offered hope. The company sat on over $200 billion in cash. Tim Cook focused on services and wearables. The Apple Watch and AirPods became new revenue streams. Slow but steady growth. Apple's story is not over. The void left by Jobs remains, but the company's DNA of innovation might still surprise us. Hi everyone. Quick reminder. Subscribe for high-quality daily content. Sparkle's next episode. A plot twist you won't expect. Subscribe now. Face screaming in fear.